Kuroko no Basket is many things, but it is not a sports anime. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of over-the-top sports anime like Inazuma 11, which has a kid using another kid as a baseball bat, or even Babe. So I watched Kuroko for the first time and saw this, and this, and whatever this is. But then I realized I was 10 episodes in before they explained a single basketball rule.
Can't take the ball from the front court to the back court. Once this ball goes, my feet must go.
So let's go through the 3 reasons why this show just isn't a sports anime, but still manages to have a game that's every bit as hype as anything out of Blue Lock or Haikyuu. And it all starts with the formation of the team. And as far as first episodes go, this one is pretty high up there. Less because it's some kind of narrative masterpiece. Oh no, we don't do that here. But because the entire episode has you going,
am I asleep right now?
This is Seirin High. They're a new school and so they're pretty ass because why wouldn't they be? It's the same way Isagi starts off as the bottom of the barrel in Blue Lock, besides this guy. And it's also the same as Raimon being so bad that in their first match, they got piped 20-1.
20-1, look at the time, it's 20-1.
But this time it's different because this year we've got an American on the team. And we know this kid is insane before he even picks up a ball because the team coach is able to tell a person's stats by looking at them half naked.
Wait, what?
Now I know this sounds ridiculous, but this girl actually spent her childhood watching men run on treadmills, so now she knows their athletic abilities and potentials just by sight. Now that I say that out loud, it sounds even more ridiculous. Look, I've never watched a single basketball game in my life, so all my examples will be about football, aka the better sport. But can you imagine if we judged these 2 players based on their physiques? But that's besides the point because the better question is, are Seirin good enough to compete in this year's tournament all because of Kagami? Nope. Look at this team. The players look more plain than chicken cooked by a white person. I'm sure everyone knows that you need to have a few people of color in your team to do well. And by that, I obviously mean different colored hair.
Thank God.
Right now, we've got a lot of black and a little bit of red, which you'd think would be good for basketball, but we need to
add a little bit of spice.
And that comes in the form of the 6th member of the team, someone who used to play for Tagoar. Now, if you don't know who Tagoar are, think of them as Real Madrid, and their starting 6 players were called the Generation of Miracles. Think of them as the Galacticos, and they were all so good that they decided to part ways and each join a different school to make the sport more fair. Can we just let that sink in for a second? And speaking of the Generation of Miracles, lads and ladesses, with the channel now being 2 years old, it has finally happened. We've been sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, and they're letting me say whatever I want. And considering some of the wild stuff I'll be saying in the rest of this video, oh my god, they made such a mistake. But unironically, the game is kinda sorta actually really good, and you can click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get 2 epic champions for free. But Maka, you said this part was about the Generation of Miracles, didn't you? Well, yes, I did. And let me ask you, which of these 6 players is the best? Because the answer is actually none of them. You see, everyone knows the 2 greatest things on this planet, besides white women, are turtles and ninjas. So what could be more miraculous than having the generational opportunity to get Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael, and my GOAT Shredder as champions in the game? And for all you gooners out there, we've got April too. Admittedly, I don't ever recall Shredder having a giant fire-breathing dragon, but you gotta admit, that's pretty fire. And that's kind of what makes Raid so fun, because they shove more fresh content down our throats than Johnny Sins. Okay, they probably won't let me say that. The bottom line is there's always something new to do, and it's genuinely a fun game. And I know there's no orange head member of the Generation of Miracles, but you can get the next best thing by logging in for 7 days to get Michelangelo as your first champion. But I've kind of made a bit of a mistake. This video was supposed to come out a lot earlier, and because of me being the lazy idiot that I am, you guys have only got until October 31st to get this done. To make up for my stupidity, you can also get Son Goku or Wukong using the code Monkey King, along with 5 other legendaries to choose from. So don't say I don't do anything for you. But let's just get back to the Generation of Miracles, because it just so happens that one of these players has signed up to play for Seirin. In fact, the entire damn show is named after him. So when he challenges Kagami to a one-on-one, you know shit's about to go down.
He's so bad I could die.
In fact, this kid is so ass that nobody even notices him half the time, and his stats are the lowest of the bunch. Or are they? Well, yeah, they kinda are, but it also turns out that Kuroko is kind of a beast. He uses his lack of presence to his advantage by misdirecting his opponent's attention. Now, I know that doesn't sound as crazy as it actually is, but just consider this. He is so good at misdirection that during his time at Tagoar, who are the most popular team in the country, where he played every single game, by the way, people didn't know if he actually existed. And so he becomes the shadow to Kagami's light, and the team might actually have a chance at their next tournament. But will it be enough to go up against another member of the Generation of Miracles? Well, turns out we don't have to wait, because we're playing one of them right away. Kind of. You see, Seirin has a practice match lined up, and one of the players may or may not be a member of the Generation of Miracles. But we need to remember this isn't a sports anime. So first we have to go through a bunch of other bullshit, which admittedly kinda makes you like the characters a lot more, even these dickheads. And it starts with Kagami devouring what is at least 18 burgers, but probably more like 24. And that's about as much use as my engineering degree is ever gonna see. But to put this into context, this is 7,200 calories in a single meal. And this is obviously not his only meal of the day, which means he's gaining at least 1 pound of weight per day. And that's all to say he must really be American, because y'all are fat as fuck. So anyway, before the first years can join the basketball team, they have to shout out their goals to the entire student body, which is actually a pretty nice way to learn more about the rest of the team, except for the fact that the show didn't translate what Kuroko wrote here, so someone please tell me in the comments. But let's face it, nobody watches this show for the story anyway, so let's skip to the next match. This is Kisei, and you can tell he's important because he's also a person of color. Colored hair, by the way. Now let me ask you something. If you wanted to play basketball against someone, what would you do? Maybe you'd politely ask them, or maybe you'd throw a basketball at their face whilst they're in the middle of a conversation and then say this.
Come here and play a little one-on-one with me, pretty boy.
And this boy put Kagami to bed in less time than it takes to summon an MHA fan by insulting their favorite ship. He can copy anyone's skill after only seeing it once. Basically, he's like Reo. Except, you know, not gay, I think.
Ever since you turned down my invitation to join our team, I've been crying into my pillow practically every night.
What is with that guy?
Okay, maybe not. But that was just a one-on-one. Now it's time for the actual match against Kisei and his entire team. Except that's kind of a big fat lie, because Kisei's on the bench because their coach thinks it wouldn't be a fair match if he played, which is kind of fair. But it's also where we learn that Kuroko might be a bigger aura farmer than Jinwoo.
You should probably go and warm up. You won't have to wait long to be put in.
I think we can all agree that Kuroko probably has a touch of autism, but he's kind of cold with it. But before we get into the next game, let me make it clear again that I have never watched basketball in my life, so don't expect any expert commentary. But as the game starts, Kuroko steals the ball back in seconds before making the pass to Kagami, who not only scores, but breaks the damn net. And I thought this was ridiculous, but this is actually kind of possible. It takes about 3,000 newtons of force to break a basketball net, and considering Kagami weighs about 180 pounds and is 6'3", at 15 years old by the way, which is bullshit, but that's besides the point. His weight force is 800 newtons. So he'd basically need to generate about 3.5 times his body weight to break the net, which, like I said before, is actually kind of possible. But you know what else is possible? You pressing that subscribe button so I can get to 50k subs by the end of the year, which will be super tight.
That's what she said.
But not impossible. So I'd really appreciate your help. Seriously, I will cry if I don't get 50k subs. And speaking of help, that was enough to get Kisei subbed on, and this is where shit gets good. And it's also where this show loses any and all premise of being a sports anime. For starters, this kid dunks so hard, people are actually moved to tears. And both teams are going band for band with Kuroko and Kagami keeping Seirin in the game. But even they're not enough to stop Kisei, which takes us to halftime or whatever the hell it's called, and the coach says a bunch of stuff that I'd have trouble understanding if I didn't play football. And that's a big difference from this show and Haikyuu, where one teaches you the sport and the other throws you right in. But that isn't to say one is better than the other, because they're both still just as hype as each other. And the game restarts with the other team getting used to Kuroko's misdirection, and they take a bigger lead than KSI's forehead.
That marks the end of the first quarter.
Oh wait, so that wasn't halftime before. So you're telling me all this shit happened in 12 minutes. And not only that, but almost as soon as the second quarter begins, we get to see one of the most gangster things I've ever seen.
What?
And with the two of them now working together, Lord knows why they didn't do that in the first place, Seirin starts to close the gap with Kagami jumping off Kuroko's head to block Kisei's shot, which ends with him throwing hands with the poor autistic kid. This is the point I'd make a joke about this not being a sports anime and being straight up shonen. But how the hell did this even happen? He got hit in the cheek. How is he bleeding from his forehead? And why is he dead? I've not seen a big overreaction in my life since Taylor Swift's engagement. And with Kuroko out or dead or whatever he is, you'd think Seirin are screwed. But it turns out there were 4 other players on the team this entire time that the show didn't want to focus on because they're not colored. They've got boring ass black hair, so they're obviously not all that important. Seriously, it takes a whole 4 episodes to properly introduce the rest of the team. This show really walked so Haikyuu could run. And in fairness, they're actually pretty decent, but not anywhere near good enough to make a comeback. So what do we do? Because we can't put Kuroko back into the game since he just got injured, and if he did come on now, it would mean he only got hurt to give the show a chance to highlight some of the other players, which would be really bad writing. Well, that's exactly what happens. This kid was out here walking looking like an obese man with his eyes sealed shut like he's Bonnie Blue, and he's already back on the court with the intro music playing in the background. And I'm sorry, I don't care if nothing here makes any sense because this shit is so damn hype. Because Seirin equalized only for Kisei to use vault tackle before scoring and hitting everyone with the coldest stare known to man. And with the score pretty much level and only a few seconds left, Kuroko does the unthinkable and actually takes a shot.
I won't let you!
Just so you know, this shit goes on for like 49 seconds. I know people clown on Haikyuu for the internal monologues, but this scene has them having whole ass flashbacks and a literal conversation mid-air. And you know what happens next? This dickhead starts crying. Need to remind you, this is a high school practice match. At least in Inazuma 11, we had a guy blackmailing his own player that he'd never get to see his sister again if he didn't win. And you know what he did? He didn't cry. He summoned penguins from the ground to break through a giant energy gap. Naturally, we gotta keep the ball rolling. So in comes another person of color, and now that we've gone through the primary colors, it's time to bring in the secondary colors. As for who he is and what he can do, we're gonna have to wait a little longer because it's time for me to put my engineering degree to use again to figure out just how impossible this dickhead's diet actually is. First of all, let's find out where they go to eat.
You guys want to grab a bite to eat on the way home?
Yeah, where do you want to go?
Somewhere cheap, please. I'm broke!
This is a 4 kilogram steak, which is about 9 pounds for all you Americans. That's about 10,000 calories, not counting the sauce and butter. Nobody else can finish their steak, so let's assume they ate 3,000 calories worth, and Kagami finishes off everyone's steaks for a total of 73,000 calories, or 36 times what the average human consumes in a day. But then again, he did come from the US, so it kind of checks out.
Did you get that injury checked?
Yeah, it's not serious.
Mate, you are basically dead for 2/4 of the game.
If you only like Kagami because of his feelings toward basketball, sorry to be the one to break it to you, but you won't be friends for long.
Is this show a rom-com now? How is it somehow everything other than an actual sports anime? In fact, this was my genuine reaction to the next scene.
You'll always stand by the light. That's how you play ball, ain't that right?
Are they about to kiss?
Wow, you can be so deep sometimes.
Holy shit, please just get back to the basketball.
All right, the inner high preliminaries start off as a tournament.
Oh, thank God. Now, if you've been on my channel for a while, you'll know that there isn't a single thing on this planet I enjoy more than a good tournament arc, besides white women. And speaking of white women, I want to ask you, what do you possibly think could be on this phone to warrant such a reaction? Taylor Swift, Sydney Sweeney, Sabrina Carpenter, your mum? Nope. Now, a lot of people have some choice comments for this scene, but take a look at my hand. It's many things. Calloused, fat, a pristine goon tool, but one thing it isn't is black. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep my mouth shut and skip to the next match.
Let's just call him Dad.
Okay, to effectively deal with Dad.
Don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything.
Run along now, little boy. Children shouldn't be out on the court.
I am so getting cancelled. And obviously, just like every new team they play, that is pretty good. But Kagami is able to defend him pretty well. Oh, hey, look, it's Tanaka.
Looks like foreigners aren't that big of a deal.
Is that racist? What the hell is going on in this episode? But at least the basketball is still peak because Kuroko intercepts a pass and turns the rebound into an assist, which is somehow less believable than a kid summoning a devil to stop a nuke. In fact, he's having the game of his life with assist after assist, and Seirin get a pretty comfortable win. And in fairness, Dad is pretty respectful.
In your next game, I ask that you please play hard and win for my sake as well.
Sure.
Like I'd ever say that, you dumbass.
You know, this is even funnier when you consider that he'd actually be saying this in Japanese. And Seirin win their next 3 games too. But obviously we don't get to see much of that because it'd be asking too much for a sports anime to show us some sports. But it does set up my favorite game so far against another member of the generation of miracles, Midorima. And the last time they played Seirin, they won 150-40. That is insane. And with Kuroko's special ability being passing and Kisei's being copying, if you're wondering what Midorima's skill is, you're gonna have to wait because we have to play against one of the best teams in Tokyo, and they have Tanaka. Not this Tanaka, but another Tanaka. And they also have this guy, who I'm supposed to believe is 17 years old. Oh, and it's worth mentioning that assuming they win this, Seirin are playing 2 games in 1 day, which should be a borderline war crime. And oh boy, are they getting their asses handed to them. And Kuroko is pretty much useless, with the other team's defense being so good he has nobody to pass to. So you're probably thinking Seirin need to do something pretty special to be able to score, right? Wrong. This ain't Haikyuu. Kagami basically just charges through screaming to score Seirin's first point. Like I said, this shit is not a sports anime. But Kuroko continues to be the only one in the show that actually does something that makes somewhat tangible sense and manages to break through by passing from the inside of the opponent's defense. And together with Kagami and the rest of the team, Seirin finally closed the gap. Unfortunately, the constant back and forth take a toll on Kagami, and Seirin end up subbing both him and Kuroko off, since even if they win this, they still have another game left to play, but this is kinda like saving your best penalty taker for last, which never ends well. But you know what? The third year trio actually turn up, because what the hell is this?
They're fighting for the win.
That shit was so sick. Almost makes me feel bad for not knowing a single one of their names.
Are you okay?
Well, why didn't they catch him? Actually, here's a better question. Kuroko and Kagami are taken off to conserve their stamina for the next game, but after this guy gets injured, Kagami asks to be subbed in and is told no because he needs to rest, but they sub Kuroko in anyway. Okay. I mean, I know Kagami has 4 fouls, but haven't they made it pretty damn clear that Kuroko just doesn't have the stamina to be playing 2 games?
Oh man, it's you. I wanted to go up against Kagami.
I'm here for his payback. And Lou.
Maybe I'm spoiled after watching the GOATs of trash talking in Inazuma 11, but that must have been the most auraless statement of all time. In fact, that shit was anti-aura. That shit made me go watch the sub to make sure they hadn't mistranslated it, but it was even worse. But I'll forgive him because he does go on to do some of the coldest shit I've seen in this show. And speaking of cold, why does this show make out every small injury to be life-threatening? This guy fell over the bench and has an ice pack on his head, a towel over his chest, and is being fanned. When my GOAT Oikawa fell into a table, he got right back up and almost got to Hinata and Kageyama's freak quick. In fact, if it wasn't for the spike hitting the block, he'd have got that shit up. Hell, Tsukishima won Karasuno the spring prelims with a dislocated finger against the best spiker in the country, and Daichi played 2 entire games after having his tooth knocked out. Bring back real sports anime. But admittedly, I'm a bit more concerned about how you can be having a full-blown conversation with someone and not 2 seconds later, you misplace them several feet away from you as they help their team score.
I've never come across a team that studied us so thoroughly in my career.
Seriously? How are you a coach? Give that job to someone else.
We can't allow them to get this one, no matter what!
Sometimes this show feels like a living meme. But the match is still far from over, with the score pretty much neck and neck and only a few seconds left on the clock, where Kuroko pulls off the most otherworldly sorcery I've ever seen to get Seirin the win.
Tell me your name! What's your name?
It's Tetsuya Kuroko.
I promise I won't forget you.
I don't think he's sleeping at all.
No, my brother, he's sleeping. Honestly, that's not even the dumbest moment of the episode, because what in God's name is this?
Did he just notice Kuroko walking behind him?
Gee, I wonder how he could have possibly done that. But enough of all that nitpicking, because ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between, it's time for the best game of the show so far.
If you have anything to say to me, you can show me on the court.
Right back at you.
So much for talking on the court. Luckily, right from the start, this game is hype as hell, with Midorima blocking Kagami's dunk and both teams going back to back. And this is where we finally get introduced to some basketball rules. I get that basketball is popular in the US, so you probably don't need to walk through all the rules, but explain to me why it took until the end of the 10th episode to explain the most basic of rules. But one thing the show is just as good at as Haikyuu is having some of the most smooth-flowing, dynamic animation coupled with pure, unadulterated hype. Because just watch this. That's right, his special ability is that he can score from pretty much anywhere on the court, and he doesn't even wait to watch that shit go in. But as cold as this is, it only gets better because our favorite autist catches the ball on the other side of the court before doing this.
What?
And not only have they found a counter to Midorima's insane shooting, but for once, Kuroko actually has some aura.
But I can't just let you take the first quarter that easily, or at all.
And the show actually gives a really good explanation, for once, as to why Midorima can't shoot anymore. But let's be honest, nobody watches this show for that, so instead let's talk about how the opponent have a Kuroko on their team, who can pretty much do everything Kuroko can, minus the autism. And he effectively removes Kuroko from the game by shutting him down over and over.
I don't think anyone's ever got me this riled up.
You know what? Let's talk about that. I'm going to show you all of their interactions thus far.
I can tell you exactly what Shin is thinking right now. It's fate. The stars predicted that we would butt heads. I kind of believe it too, although I didn't think it would be this soon. You and I are cut from the same cloth, don't you think? And we're both first years. You could almost say passing is in our veins.
Luckily, the score is still neck and neck, but Seirin are pretty tired from having already played a game, and it's not actually Kuroko or Kagami that keep Seirin in the game, but their captain. And obviously, just like the rest of the show, the explanation for how he's so good at shooting is absolute bullshit, because he basically had to smash one of his action figures each time he missed, which is fair enough, but to get this good, you'd think he had over a few thousand of those. But even that's not enough, because just when you think this is actually turning out to be a good game, 4-eyed Deku over here goes and pulls this off.
As I said before, you've yet to see anything. My shooting range is nothing short of the entire court.
Now, even as someone that hasn't played basketball, I'm still well aware how utterly insane this is. Let's keep in mind, this is a 15-year-old and he just scored across like 90 feet. And this isn't even the most insane thing he does. And I probably don't need to tell you this, but if you ever have the misfortune of going up against a fella that can do this, it isn't going to end well for you. And Seirin end up getting their asses handed to them. And that brings us to the third quarter, where Kuroko starts on the bench since he's been proven to be pretty useless. You know, except for the fact that he was single-handedly able to counter Midorima's half-court shot, so it makes no sense why he's benched, but then again, that's basically the entire vibe of this show. But Kagami still finds a way to stop Midorima. How? By jumping higher. What else did you expect? In fact, he doesn't just stop Midorima, he stops everyone. This is basically like Messi against, well, just about anyone really, where he single-handedly helps Seirin close the gap.
Kagami, how many times can you jump?
Shouldn't you know that? You were out here giving full physical breakdowns by seeing them all shirtless.
You've only got 2 jumps left.
So what was the point in that question? And this is when Kagami gets in his old head, thinking it's all me, me, me. And I can't really blame him because he's basically been putting the team on his back. But if you've watched Inazuma 11, you'll know the best way to get someone to see reason is through assault. And this show isn't any different. I think we need to take a minute to appreciate that he punched someone almost twice his size so hard that he fell off the bench. But that's not going to help Seirin catch up. So what do?
I'm not a shooter. I just passed the ball, but I can take it to a whole new level.
Now that was cold. Apparently he has passes so good that he hasn't been using them because nobody would be good enough to catch them. But now that he's not holding back, Seirin closed the gap to just 2 points. And that basically means we're about to see some new bullshit. But this is the good kind of bullshit because for once, Kagami isn't the one to give Seirin the lead. And with 3 seconds left, you'd think Seirin have won the game, but it isn't even close to over yet. Seriously, because Midorima starts a 46-second long monologue with, again, 3 seconds left on the clock. But I shit you not, what happens next is peak sports anime. And yeah, I said sports anime because just watch this.
I believed in you. I believed that even at your limit, you would overcome it and jump once more.
This right here is up there with almost anything out of Haikyuu or Blue Lock for me because what happens next is even better.
I believed in him as well. I knew Kagami would jump.
So let me just get this straight. Kuroko believed that Kagami would jump and believed that Midorima would believe that Kagami would jump, so was prepared to stop him. That is such bullshit, but I am so here for it. I don't even care that this show is more anime than sports when every single match is so damn hype. And if you want to watch an even more hype sports anime, watch my Beyblade video on the left. But it might make you cry. Thanks for watching.